Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patching Ephrata, Washington, and today we are going to show you our way of doing English paper piecing. English paper piecing has been around for a long time. You can do grandmother's flower garden blocks like these. There's diamond templates. There's Dresden plates. All kinds of different things. Spoiler alert, it's essentially done by hand, but that's kind of the whole point. But we have a little different way of doing it. So a lot of people will use the little cards, and I'm going to show you these in just a second. We have a little different technique that we're going to show you. So I'm going to show you about 5 or 6 different kind of little tricks that we use. And it's a really fun thing to do. You could make an entire quilt if you'd like to. You can make a bed runner. You can make a table runner. You can do all kinds of things. If you feel like you don't want to make any more, you can make the cutest little coasters that you've ever made just by putting 2 of these blocks together. All right, so we're going to just change the view just a little bit, and I'm going to show you the way that we do it. Okay, there's a lot to look at here. I'm just going to go over what you need, what is different, and how to do it. So first of all, it is kind of a fun little hand project. And so however you're taking this, if you have a little project pouch that you want to carry or a little bin, I just like to remind people to use, depending upon where you live, if you have any kind of moisture or humidity, it is kind of nice to put little desiccants in your little plastic bins to keep these funny little smells away, because it is, of course, a hand project. So it is something that might not be super, super fast. They're kind of fun to put together. And then once you have them together, it's still handwork putting all of those blocks together. We're going to talk about that in a second. The next thing is cutting all of the Hexies. There's a couple ways to do that. If you have a pattern or a template, you can find all of these templates in whatever size you're using in all kinds of different books and patterns, or you can even just print one off. The way that they are measured is if this is a 3/4 inch Hexie, it means that this line right here is a 3/4 inch. This is probably a 3-inch Hexie right here. What I'm going to be working with today is what is known as a 1-inch Hexie. So this is 1 inch from here to here, but the fabric that I'm cutting, this is 1.5 inches, because what I would do is I would put my little template right in the center there. So you'll have to cut all of these out. Brianna is doing a Memento series about how to use your Memento cutting machine, and she's going to show you a great way to cut these out. If you happen to have an AccuCut, a Cricut, if you have something else that will help you to cut these out, or you want to use some templates or purchase some pre-cut Hexies, then you can do that. Obviously, you will need to cut out all of your Hexies. So you'll need your Hexie fabrics and you'll need your Hexie papers, or in our case, we're going to show you a little different technique. When you cut out all of your Hexies, you tend to need 6 of your flower pieces for this particular project, which is your grandmother's flower garden, and 1 center. And they can all be different, which is kind of cute, or you can have something where you have kind of a central theme. It is kind of nice, though, for whether you're using 30s fabric or like the one that we already showed you, that's just kind of some gentle pink fabric. It is nice if all of your flower pieces are the same, or else it's going to look a little bit too mixed. All right, so let's talk about the Hexies for a second. So we've got our fabric pieces. The Hexie pieces, this is what typically people will use, which are these little, they're kind of a cardstock piece, and they come with directions. I don't know, they're probably about $7 or $8, and you get maybe 50 or 100 in the package. And what you do is you take this little card, you put the card in there, you fold over it, and you kind of stitch through. And then after you're done, you take that card out. They are reusable to a certain extent. A lot of it sort of depends on whether you stitch through them or not. This is the part that for me, we have replaced this, and even replaced the way that we flip all of this fabric over. What we're using instead is this product. It is made by Quilter Select and it's called Appli-Stick. What Appli-Stick is it's a really lightweight fusible web that is a fusible web on one side and it's sticky paper on the other side. It is 8.5 by 11, and what you can do is you can just run this right through your printer. So this is the template that I used. We can do a link below. This is a free downloadable pattern. It's just on Hexies.com, and they give you the 1-inch Hexies, or they can give you the 1/2-inch Hexies or the 3/4 inch, whatever size you're doing. They also have the diamond shapes. They have the Dresdens. Any of these that you're going to be using, they have all of these templates for free for you. So I downloaded this image and then I printed it right onto my Appli-Stick paper. And then once you print this off, then you just have to cut this out. Now, again, if you have some sort of a cutting tool, again, an AccuCut, a Memento, something like that, that will go ahead and just cut all of these shapes out for you, then you could skip this whole step, but otherwise this is what you're going to use. Once you have these and these, what you're going to use this for is, so see how this is a shiny paper side and this is kind of a fabric side. What you're going to do is take this and put this right in the center, and you can kind of just eyeball that. And then I'm going to iron it. And once I've pressed that down, I'm going to peel this part off. So I'm going to save that for a minute. And so you see that that's there. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over. And since that's sticky, see how it's sticky? My fabric is stuck there. Then I'm going to work around in, I can either go clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to work all the way around the hexie. And then when I get to this end, see, it almost seems like there's not much space, but I still have some sticky right there. So I'm just going to bring this down and it'll still stick there. Then I'm just going to go ahead very, very carefully. I'm going to go ahead and go to the iron and I'm going to just press this down. Okay, this is an applique pressing sheet and it's just one of those Teflon sheets so that things don't get stuck to your mat, because of course this is fusible. So it's fusible on the other side, and then we had the paper on the sticky side. But if I were to do something else and press this down and iron it, it would be stuck there. So instead, I'm just going to put it on my pressing sheet and then just kind of come around the edge here. And really all I want to do is just get that kind of crisp so that it's nice and flat. And if it is stuck there just a little bit, which it is, see, it'll just come right off. And then where I said I'm keeping that other piece of paper, that's just to go ahead and park that on there for just a minute so that it doesn't stick to my shirt or stick to something else until I need it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of the pieces. And one other thing is, if you kind of forget this part and you've put something down wrong maybe, and you put your iron on that and you end up getting something kind of sticky and gooey on your iron, I just like to remind everybody about Iron Clean. These are little sheets that sort of look almost like a dryer sheet, but it's totally different. And all you have to do is you just put it down on the edge of your mat, run your iron along the edge of it, and it will clean off your iron. Okay, so let's talk for just a second about needle and thread. So the needle that I prefer to use is a Milner or a straw in size 11 or a size 10. The reason I like to do that is because when we're stitching these, what you're hoping for is an invisible stitch. And so since it's an invisible stitch, we kind of need to have an invisible needle and an invisible thread. So the thread that I like to use, you have a couple of options here. One option is the applique, bless you. Sorry. The applique thread, we sell them on spools. You can either get like the neutral colors or you can get the multicolored. So if you tend to do a lot of hand applique, you may already have these. I think these are a 60 weight bobbin thread. They put them on bobbins just so you have about 110 yards for each color, but so that's a really nice option. The other option is the Aurifil, the Aurifil 80 weight thread. This is fantastic. It's a teeny tiny little thread. It's actually what's on this right here. And then the only thread that is thinner than the Aurifil 80 weight is a silk thread that we can get away with 100 weight because silk is so strong. The difference in this though is the price. You get quite a bit more of this than you do of this. And so this is just a little bit more economical. But people ask all the time if they should be using hand quilting thread. You absolutely should not. You would use hand quilting thread, which is a waxed cotton thread, 40 weight cotton thread, for things like yo-yos and hand quilting. But again, in this, the whole idea is to make that stitch absolutely invisible. And so if you use a thin thread, what will happen is that thread is thin enough that it will basically rest in between the fibers of the cotton. So even if your stitch isn't great, you won't see it. All right, so then we're going to come over and then what you do, so we typically have a different color for the center and then we have all of our little outside pieces. And again, I just use that on so that things don't get stuck and, you know, I don't find them on a shirt later or do whatever. But after you've laid everything out, what you're going to do, I tend to flip this over, it's right sides together. And it's just a tiny little whip stitch, and I'll show you how that works. We're just going to whip stitch this end together, and then after we've done that, I'm going to put the next one on, flip that over, whip stitch that one together. And you can, if you want to start here, whip stitch this and then come down and catch that one. You can, you just have to kind of fold that together. This one will bend over. It doesn't really matter. People will tell you that there are rules about what you stitch first or second or in what order. There's really not any rules. It's just that you're going to start with approximately 18 inches of thread. You really don't want more than that. If you have more than that, you'll end up knotting your thread. So don't think that you're going to in some way stitch an entire part without re-threading and re-knotting your needle. But it's easy enough to go around because all you have to do when you've stitched this, you can easily just sneak to another area, just sneak from here, sneak across and come back up, sneak underneath and come back over. I mean, that tiny little thread that's going to be about 1.5 inches isn't going to bother anything if you have to do some sneaking somewhere. All right, so once you've laid this out, the stitch that you're doing, again, is just a whip stitch. So I have threaded my needle here and I've tied a little quilter's knot. Haven't I? Nope. Let me do that. Okay. And then I just use one strand of thread. That's all you're going to need with this. And what you're going to do, Brianna, do we need to get closer? How do you feel?
Yeah, good.
Good, right here. I'm going to start back here and I'm going to bury my thread. So I'm going to come through here to my knot. And then it is just a whip stitch, nothing fancy at all. So I'm just going to hold it here. So I'm holding this end and this end together. You can go ahead and put a clip maybe over here if you need it, if you need a little wonder clip, binder clip, but it's just such a small distance. I feel like I can hold it fairly easily. And then I'm just doing my little whip stitch. So I'm coming through. Okay, 3 questions that people always ask. One is, do I wear a thimble? Sometimes I do. If I'm doing a bunch of it, I will end up putting a thimble on. What I actually like is the little thimble pad. I don't have one here to show you, but it's just a little kind of a leather pad that'll stick there. But if there's a thimble that you like, usually I can do a couple of them before my finger starts to hurt. The other question is, how many stitches are you actually doing here? I don't know. It depends on how much wine I'm drinking while I'm doing it and what sort of book I'm listening to on tape. And then the other question that everybody asks is, am I actually stitching through the paper? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I try not to, but every once in a while I get it. And you can see that that's when it feels like it's a little bit sticky. It's not hard to stitch through the paper, but it stays on there. When I end up washing this, the first time that it's washed, this will disappear. All of this in here, it doesn't last. It just is there while we're using it. But the first time it's washed, it'll actually disintegrate. And when I end, you can see where I ended, which is right there at the end, right there at the tip, almost like the same place that I started. So then when I open this up, you cannot see my stitches. And so then what I would do is then I have to decide for my next one if I want to then go ahead and keep going or if I want to get the side there. I probably will go ahead and just keep going and get my center done first. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to keep whip stitching and you just put the whole thing together. After you've put the whole thing together, again, you've got all of those little that is fusible, so you can go ahead and put 2 of these together. You can add a little bit of batting if you want to, but then what will happen is you can just fuse these 2 pieces together because they're already fusible. This one does actually have a little bit of batting in it. And then I'm just going to do the same thing. As I come around here, I'm just going to go ahead and stitch these all closed and have these cute little coasters. Your other option is to put these together, and as you put them together, the same thing, same idea. Depending upon the colors that you're doing, you're just going to slowly stitch, stitch, stitch. It just sort of becomes this fun jigsaw puzzle as you're putting this together. And however you'd like with your colors and your pieces. Might seem a little bit wrinkled. This is unfolded and folded a bunch, but same idea. So you're just going to keep sewing all of these together. And you can see what I mentioned earlier, that each one of these particular flowers is its own color. If you were to make these mixed color, you wouldn't really be able to see the flower. But anyway, I think it's a beautiful project. It's a hand project. It's one of those things that we like to call slow stitching, where it doesn't really matter. Just have some little hand project that you can work on if you're in the car, in appointments, in front of the TV, and you just want something to work on. It's something fun to kind of work on, and when you have enough, you can put some together, make a few more, keep adding until you have it the size that you like. So anyway, hope that this was kind of fun for you. And the things just to mention again is the Appli-Stick is what I think makes this project way easier, way faster in terms of pressing them and stitching them together and keeping those pieces together. And then again, my particular needle of choice is a straw or a Milner size 10 or 11. And then my particular thread of choice is the Aurifil 80 weight. You can find all of these things at hopefully your local quilt shop or here online at fabricpatch.net. Thanks a lot. Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.